The magical season comes to an end.
You are Locked On Louisville, your daily podcast on the Louisville Cardinals. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Card Nation, what's going on, everyone? Welcome into this Thursday edition of the Locked On Louisville podcast. I'm your host, Dalton Pence. This is my fifth year covering the University of Louisville, third year hosting this show, and I want to take the time to personally thank you all for making us your first listen of the day. Just a reminder, the Locked On Louisville podcast, free and available on all streaming services 5 days a week, your team every day. This episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off of your first purchase. Terms apply. The magical season for the Louisville Cardinals has ended after an 89-75 loss to the Creighton Bluejays in the opening round of the NCAA Tournament. We'll discuss the solid performance by the Bluejays, how Louisville didn't have an answer for some things on the court on Thursday. We'll also explain that this loss doesn't invalidate the season that the Cardinals had in year one of the Pat Kelsey era, and then we will give some flowers and praise to the guys that will be 100% leaving Louisville now that the season is over. And it's been something that I mentioned on the past couple of shows, but I've got to mention it again. With the sinuses and pollen and allergies that I've dealt with this week, my voice has consistently gotten worse, and I'm going to bounce back, but it's usually a couple-day thing to where I just lose my voice, and it's gotten a little bit worse each and every episode, so I'm going to take tomorrow to rest my vocal cords up, and I'll be back on Monday, but I wanted to get on here and have this recap episode and not really delay it to Friday morning, so please just bear with me. I know it's not going to sound the greatest. I've been working with about 20 to 25% of a voice, but we're going to work with what we got. So appreciate you all for being patient with me. But just a tough performance from Louisville on Thursday. Went back and forth, and Creighton ended up getting a 7-point lead to make it 28-21. Louisville with two quick buckets. And then the Blue Jays just caught fire in that first half. You saw multiple three-pointers made to the point to where you just kind of had to throw your hands up, tip your hat, and move on. Stephen Ashworth made a three-pointer, and then it was Jackson McAndrew, and then it was Stephen Ashworth again, and then McAndrew again, and then McAndrew another time, and then Jamiya Neal. And that gave the Creighton Bluejays a 20-point lead in the first half. And this game was lost in the first half. Yes, the Cardinals were able to get 5 points at the end of that half. Chucky Hepburn hitting that three-pointer pretty much close to time expiring to cut the lead to 15. Gave you a little bit of momentum, but credit to Creighton in the second half for making the plays that they needed to. It felt like defensively, Louisville was struggling to guard all of the different screens that the Blue Jays were throwing at them, and I think a lot of this is just credit to Greg McDermott for being able to come up with a great game plan. There is a reason why the Blue Jays have gone to the second weekend in 3 of the last 4 seasons. They have a veteran-led team, and they came ready to play in a hostile environment. This was pretty much road game for Creighton. A lot of red in the stands. I was there, and you can imagine how unpleasant it must have sounded for me to try to yell with no voice as it was, but credit to Creighton for just getting the crowd out of this game. And every time the crowd begged to get back in, Louisville was trying to make a run in that second half. Creighton made a big shot. It felt like something that has hindered the Cardinals all year was once again hurting them this afternoon. That was three-point shooting defense. Way too many open shots have been given up this season, and they gave up many to Creighton, and Creighton made them pay. Now, did they go on a little bit of a heater there in the first half? Sure. I mean, there were some NBA level threes, some threes that were made from the parking lot, Ashworth fading off to his right. Not every three was an easy shot, but credit to Creighton for shooting over 50% from three in the first half. And when your opponent does that, when they make, was it 9 threes in the first half, you just throw your arms up and it's like, okay, what do you do? Creighton had 49 points in the first half. I think a lot of that giving up open looks was Louisville just trying to limit what Ryan Kalkbrenner got, and why he's so dangerous to defend is because he, number one, can shoot and he's really effective around the rim, but he's a great passer. He's a great screen man in the pick and roll. And what makes it even more challenging is that Creighton has surrounded him with guys that can shoot the ball all up and down the lineup. And you saw multiple players make big-time shots. It felt like most of the game plan was centered around the big man and not so much to Stephen Ashworth. And the veteran point guard made Louisville pay. Credit to him. I mean, he had a fantastic performance against the Cardinals. But the biggest star of the game was Jamiya Neal, who we kind of talked about as an X factor on the show with Jacob Lane yesterday because of his ability to create his own offense off the dribble. He's one of the top rebounding guards in the country, and he had a career performance. I mean, he has been developing all season long with Pop Isaacs missing the majority of the season with a hip injury in December. Neal had 29 points, 12 rebounds, and 6 assists. He was 11 of 16 from the field, 2 of 5 from 3. Louisville let 4 of the 5 Creighton starters score in double digits, and Jason Green, the other fifth starter, had 9 points. And Louisville, led mainly by their big three. Javon Hadley had 13 points, Terrence Edwards with 21, Chucky Hepburn with 22, just not enough firepower. They had some opportunities in the second half to try to seize that momentum, and either they missed shots or a lot of times Jamiya Neal's number was called in the second half, and he was able to answer the bell. And it's just the way it is. Single elimination tournament, there's so much of a priority on playing good right out of the gate. And it felt like some of the same issues for the Cardinals continue to be issues. Rain Smith did get an opportunity to come off the bench and play in this game. He played 20 minutes. He made his first 3, and then he proceeded to miss his next 4. Just wasn't able to find it, and he ended up going down with another, looked like, ankle injury in the second half. Brutal way to end his fantastic overall season that he's had at Louisville, and it makes me sick that that's the way that his Louisville career ended, was with another injury and having not played the last, 4 games on the schedule, was just really tough to swallow. But Cardinals needed to get more from guys not named Chucky Hepburn and Terrence Edwards. I thought Javon Hadley played pretty solid, 13 points, 8 rebounds. Noah Waterman had 8 points. James Scott did not attempt a shot in 15 minutes of play. Traore was 2 of 3 for 4 points. Kenai Roots had 2 points. Just overall, not enough against a Creighton team that probably was underseeded as well. But tough game. Just felt like Creighton did a great job of seizing the momentum. And we also mentioned that the Cardinals needed to shoot the ball better from the three-point line. 8 of 29, 27.6%. They shot 43% from the field, but Creighton, 57% from the field, 45% from 3, and they made 14 of 21 free throws. We knew coming into the game that Creighton was the best team in the country at keeping their opponents off the free throw line, and once again, they held the team to under 10 free throws. They out-rebounded the Cardinals by 5 and only turned the ball over. Well, actually, they turned the ball over 10 times. I had 17 assists. Louisville did a pretty good job at taking care of the basketball, and I think a lot of that is because Creighton doesn't take many risks, but they just force you to take tough shots. And it seemed like Louisville was sort of rattled at taking the ball to the basket. That's something that they've done really well all year, but with Kalkbrenner, one of the best defenders in the country, for straight consecutive Big East Defensive Player of the Year awards. You could see Louisville taking it into the paint and the Cardinals not really either knowing what to do or just throwing up a prayer, which, I mean, Kalkbrenner's so good at defending. And then, not to mention, to pull him out of the paint, you needed someone to make some threes. James Scott really was a non-factor in this game offensively. And we sort of knew he was going to be because most of his offense comes from above the rim. And, well, Kalkbrenner does a great job of just neutralizing threats around the rim. So, just a tough game. It was always going to be challenging. This is why I strongly warned Louisville fans to not look too far ahead to the Auburn matchup because Creighton didn't really have a bad loss on the season. Second in the Big East, and the Big East is sort of a little underrated. They beat up on each other. And they were also an underseeded team that all week long had to listen to questions about Louisville being underseeded and having to play an hour and 15 minutes east of campus, and just not a easy game to play is what I keep coming back to. It was nice to see as much red as there was in Rupp Arena, and we're going to explain now that while this loss sucks, Creighton took it to Louisville. The defeat doesn't invalidate the entire season like a lot of non-Louisville fans want to suggest that it does. We'll explain when we come back on this post-game Thursday edition of the Locked On Louisville podcast. Ever check your bank account and wonder where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place, so you just stop managing your money and start building wealth. Instead of juggling multiple apps, you can use Monarch to check your finances, track spending, and even plan long-term goals. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use the code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com with the code LOCKEDONCollege for your first year. And at this time, I do want to take the time to tell you about our friends and the title sponsor of the show, Game Time. I just watched my favorite team live, feeling the energy of the crowd and witnessing the team back in the tournament for the first time since 2019. There's nothing like experiencing a big game in person. Getting tickets shouldn't be stressful. That's where Game Time comes in, making it easier to grab last-minute seats at unbeatable prices. Game Time Picks means that the curation makes it easier to find better tickets and value for sports, concert, comedy, theater, etc. With seat views before you buy, no surprise fees, and a lowest price guarantee, you can book with total confidence. Download the Game Time app. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Create an account and use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. That's LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. You know, this is an emotional loss because this is the first time in a couple years where I think everyone can say that Louisville basketball was fun again. People weren't apathetic anymore. A once passionate fan base got that same energy and juice, and it was all because of what this team was able to accomplish. And having lost to Creighton in the way that they did, I've seen a lot of non-Louisville fans suggest that this loss puts a damper on this season because, you know, the whole ACC narrative, and you don't really have that marquee victory. And I just find it very funny for a set of fan bases in particular that, tried to play the pity card over the past couple of years. Like, Louisville's, college basketball is better when Louisville is good again. And then Louisville gets good, and it's like, oh, well, you need to temper your excitement. And it's wild to me that for the first time in years, Louisville basketball fans are excited. And I'm seeing other fans in almost every post just completely. And I know that that's how rivalries go. And I know that's how other fans troll and stuff like that. And social media doesn't always represent the majority, but man, it's persistent. And I'm like, sorry that we're not completely depressed about our basketball program anymore. Like, please forgive us for being excited for once. And it's true. Not one loss, or this one loss does not invalidate the season. Because what were the expectations coming into the year? Some wanted to make the tournament. Some wanted to go 500. Some wanted to make second weekend. It varied depending on who you talk to. But don't forget, Louisville was projected to finish. No matter how bad you want to talk about the ACC, this was a conference that the Cardinals were projected to finish 9th. And to make matters worse, 2 starters went down early in the season. Kason Pryor was supposed to be a top 2 player on this team. He goes down the battle for the Bahamas, and Louisville all season long had to try to find ways to fill his role both offensively and defensively. And I think that the Creighton loss sort of highlighted their inability to do so. Corin Johnson was supposed to be valuable guard depth, a backcourt running mate for Chucky Hepburn. He plays 2 games and doesn't play again with a shoulder injury. The team goes 6-5 with a tough non-conference schedule. I mean, they played Kentucky and Ole Miss and had to play Duke early on in the season, and was just a tough go early on for a brand new team, none of which had played at Louisville ever before. And then they were able to go on a run. And they didn't just beat ACC teams. They pretty much ran the table. They went 18-2. They made Louisville basketball fun again. The revival season did just that. Now, it's not the end goal. And I think that's where other fans need to realize what Louisville fans' expectations were. No one thought this was a national championship contending team. We just wanted to be respected again. And they got to the point to where they made the NCAA tournament again. And yeah, they got underseeded. And the loss to Creighton doesn't invalidate the fact that the NCAA still gave Louisville a lower seed. Now, of course, you had to handle business. You did not. But the only people that will suggest that this year was a complete fluke are those fans down the road, the fans of a certain team in the ACC, in which I'm not really understanding why they are so pressed about things. The truth of the matter is that Louisville fans understood. We knew all year long. There were some that were just kind of being arrogant and talking trash. And like I said, you can kind of chalk that up in the name of rivalry and trolling. But year one under Pat Kelsey, I think that if you asked Louisville fans, in terms of the majority, what do you want to see come of this season? A lot of people are going to say, let's just make the tournament. And we got there. And of course, I don't do well with losses. Like, I'm really competitive. I sort of hate losing more than I love winning. But it's something that I realized after the game walking back to the car. And I'm not trying to take away from this loss because it sucked. It sucked watching what happened. Hats off to Creighton because they played a fantastic game. And it happens. That's the reality. It's the beauty, but also the downside of playing a single game elimination tournament and the whole justification behind the term March Madness is that if you don't bring it on one given afternoon or evening, you will go home. And that was the case for Louisville. But what I reminded myself on the way back to my car was that, hey, you said to yourself, the team exceeded expectations. And it goes back to what I wanted them to do at the beginning of the year. I wanted them to go 21-10. They exceeded that. I wanted them to finish top 4 in the ACC. They finished second. And I wanted them before the season to win a tournament game, and then adjusted that when Corin and Kaysen went down to just making the tournament, and they did that. And I'm grateful. And I know that Louisville fans are grateful because I think that the foundation was set this season. And that's all that we asked for, is a coach to finally get us back in the right direction. And I think that Pat Kelsey's done that. There's going to be a lot of focus on the transfer portal, the mental recruitment, and much more for next year's roster, and who can return and who can, or who will and who can return, who can't, etc. And we'll discuss over the next month as it relates to the roster for next year. But it was a fun season. That's all I can say. A lot of gratitude, forever appreciated, forever appreciative of this team, and my appreciation for these guys cannot be overstated. So let's talk about some of that appreciation for the guys that will 100% not be returning when we come back on this Thursday edition of the Locked On Louisville podcast. Daylight savings snuck up on us again, and if you're feeling that lost hour of sleep, 5-Hour Energy has your back. The extra sunshine means more time for fun, but sometimes you just need a little boost to power through. And whether you're staying up late watching the NCAA tournament like me, well, maybe not with my immune system, but oh well, squeezing in a round of golf after work, or just trying to keep up with your busy day, 5-Hour Energy gives you that quick, refreshing pick-me-up whenever you need it. With longer days, I love getting outside for a hike or a run, unless, again, pollen is involved. But when I do go for my run, Tropical Burst is my go-to for a quick boost. Head to 5hourenergy.com to find over 15 flavors to choose from, including watermelon, blue raspberry, and peach mango. You can even build your own 12-pack or 24-pack delivered right to your door. Need one now? Grab a 5-Hour Energy shot at your local grocery or convenience store. They're everywhere. Stock up today and stay energized.
The NCAA Tournament is here, and so is the Bracket Breakdown.
Locked On Podcast Network and Amazon Fire TV channels are teaming up to deliver NCAA Tournament coverage like never before. Watch studio shows featuring former players and Locked On's local experts as they guide you through every upset, buzzer beater, and bracket matchup.
Stream it all for free on Amazon Fire TV channel. Search Bracket Breakdown to see it all for free.
It's your team every day.
Cardinal fans, it's been an incredible season, and I couldn't be able to sit here with 20% of a voice and not thank you all for making this show your first listen of the day throughout the duration of the season. I hope it's been an informative show. I hope it's been entertaining. I hope you've had fun. I hope Cardinal basketball has brought that fun back to your life, and it's been an honor to be able to go through the season with the rest of you all. For those who have recognized me in public and come up and voice their support for the show, or just dropping a nice thought in the comments, it has meant the world to me. And I don't think that you all truly understand, just how much this means to me. But what I do think you all understand is how we all feel about the guys on the team, and specifically the ones that won't be coming back. There are a couple that can, but the ones that can't: Noah Waterman, Frank Ansel-Amibe, Terrence Edwards Jr., Chucky Hepburn, Rain Smith, and Abubakar Traore. 6 players who took a chance on Pat Kelsey to, during their final season of college basketball, banked on him, banked on themselves, and had a very successful season. Chucky Hepburn, what is there to say that hasn't already been said? One of the best seasons in program history, one of the best point guards in program history. What he has meant to this program, words don't even really do it justice. The only regret that I have is that he just got to Louisville and didn't get to spend more seasons here. His impact on both ends of the court, his willingness to shoulder the large amounts of responsibility on both ends and still be that leader. He fully embraced the city and the city fully embraced him back. And really, really glad that he ended up choosing Louisville because it was a ceiling-defining move for the Cardinals. The same with Terrence Edwards. I thought that at times Louisville needed another guy to step up. And after starting out the year kind of rough, he was able to take a huge step forward, all ACC third-team selection. Good defender for the most part of the year and really good 1B to Chucky, Hepburn's 1A. And really, really, really fortunate to have gotten the Sun Belt Player of the Year. He was the first big-time, oh, snap type of recruit that Pat Kelsey was able to bring in from the portal. So awesome to be able to see that, him being able to come here and still have a good amount of success. Rain Smith, I mean, it's heartbreaking to see the way it ended for him, having that ankle injury and re-injuring it in the NCAA tournament, but one of the best three-point shooting seasons in program history. He was a breath of fresh air for a program that had lacked really good shooters for a couple of years, and just awesome to watch him go from a possible rotational role to stepping in as a starter and being a huge reason as to why Louisville has been so good was so good this year. I'm sorry, I'm not really ready to talk about this team in the past tense, but I guess we're there at this point. Let's see. Noah Waterman, I mean, dealt with some injuries, dealt with some adversity, had some points this season where he didn't really have a great stretch of games, got passed up on the depth chart, had the game winner against Eastern Kentucky. Who knows how the rest of the season goes without that buzzer beater? And I thought he stepped up at the end of the year heading into the ACC tournament, and I appreciate his contributions. Abubakar Traore was a burst of energy off the bench. I'm not sure if he ever lived up to the expectations, sort of also in that Noah Waterman situation to where got passed up on the depth chart. And I think his lack of shooting kind of hurt him. He had the injury early on in the season that sort of hurt his time to get acclimated with the rest of the guys. Got hurt basically after the first couple games, had surgery, didn't come back until late December, early January. And at that point, I thought that he had some good games. The Virginia game on the road was a big-time performance from him. Had some other performances. I'm going to miss his energy and appreciate his contributions. I know Frank Ansel-Amibe didn't have a ton of an impact on the court. I always thought, he was going to be one of those veteran guys, end of rotation, that just gives you those insurance minutes at the end of halves, at the end of TV timeouts. But I think Frank, his impact holds a special place in Louisville's heart because of the fact that we felt like he just got it. Players that truly cared about this university. He came in and, the whole, if you're reading this posts, just the energy that he gave, and grateful that he chose to spend his last year at Louisville. So really, really forever grateful for these six guys and their contributions in their final college basketball season. They all played a critical part in reviving this program. The revival was successful. One loss does not invalidate the season. I'm really excited to focus on the roster construction for next year, what that can mean for 2025-26 as we get ready for year two. Again, there won't be an episode tomorrow. I've got to let my vocal cords rest and heal because they're just getting worse and worse to where at this point, I'm not sure that I even recognize my own voice at this point. But thank you all for all of your support of the Louisville basketball coverage of the Locked On Louisville podcast. We'll see you right back here on Monday. Have a great weekend and go Cards.